So good morning once again. This will be our last lesson to be discussed in Assessment and Learning 1. And this will be about feedbacking and communicating assessment results. So this will be our learning targets for this session. We will be making value judgment on assessment results based on empirical evidence, and we will demonstrate strategies to communicate learner needs, progress, and achievement to intended stakeholders. So the first thing that we will be talking about are is the concept of qualitative evaluation, which comes technically into two parts or two categorization. Number one is a simple categorization of individuals into discrete groups, whether or not they are employed or not employed, or they are participating or not participating. Another one is the second form of qualitative evidence is that data expressed in prose or narrative. So when I say prose or narrative, this could be in oral or written statements based from the questions given to the students. Qualitative evaluation, however, are can be richer than quantitative data because they provide a more extensive variety of information related to a particular learning goal. Unlike quantitative data that it's very easy to be counted and expressed into numerics, qualitative evaluation are more difficult to express into one single numbers as uh they are very worthy. However, they are considered as reliable, valid, and as objective as quantitative ones as well. Um, Qualitative or a good qualitative evaluation is used to help develop quantitative evaluation criteria in making rubrics. So this is the overall difference, bird's eye view between quantitative and qualitative evaluation. We have, when you say quantitative evaluation, it focuses on numbers, numeric values, the who, what, where, when, and they match with outcomes about knowledge and comprehension. At the same time, they allow measurement of variables. They use as statistical data analysis and may be generalized to greater population with larger samples. And one thing more is that they could easily be replicated. On the other hand, when we say qualitative, they focus on the text and narrative form. This answers the questions of whys and the hows. Okay, so they match outcomes about application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and other higher order thinking skills. So qualitative data or qualitative evaluation seeks to explain and understand. At the same time, it has the ability to capture elusive evidence of learning or students' learning and development. Qualitative methods include three kinds of data collection. We have interviews, direct observations, and written documents. So when you say interviews, open-ended questions and probes yield in-depth responses about people's experiences, perceptions, opinions, feelings, and knowledge. While on the other hand, when we say direct observations, this could include field works where activities, behaviors, and actions, as well as conversations and interpersonal interactions, organizational or community processes, or any other aspect of observable human experience are gathered. And finally, we have written documents. So when you say written documents, these are documents such as organizational, clinical, or program records, memoranda and correspondence, official publication and reports, personal diaries, letters, artistic works, photographs, memorabilia, and other written responses to open-ended surveys. Open-ended surveys are also considered as written documents. So what does it mean by constructive feedbacking? Well, technically, we are trying to give feedback to our students in a way that they are constructive in nature. So when I say constructive in nature, we are helping them grow, we are helping them learn, and the act of giving feedback is a way of teaching or even teaching the students. Constructive feedback is providing useful comments and suggestions that contribute to a positive outcome, which is a better process or improved behaviors. It provides encouragement, support, corrective measures, and direction to receiving it. And finally, this can be positive, negative, or neutral. So when you say positive, we are letting someone know they are doing well. When you say negative, letting people know about the ways in which things could have been improved, could have been done better. Or neutral, when you say neutral, just an objective observation. There are two main elements that make feedback constructive. Number one is the content of the feedback, and the other one is how the feedback is delivered. So the concept is that what are we giving feedback in the first place? So we have constructive feedback is specific, issued focus, and based on what is observable. Okay, rather than assuming anything about the person's attitude or motivation. So anything that we are giving as the content of our feedback is one one factor of the two main elements that make feedback constructive. And the other one is how do we make feedback? How do we feedback or how do we deliver the feedback to our students? To be constructive, feedback should not be delivered in a way that provokes hurt feelings, shame, defensiveness, resistance, or sense of failure. So in a way, it could be in a communicative manner, it could be in a diplomatic manner, in a way that the students are not hurt about receiving the content of the feedback. So again, there are two main elements when you say constructive feedbacking. The first one is the content, and the other one is the way we deliver the feedback itself. So there are 12 principles of effective feedbacking. We have number one, identifies where students are doing well. The other one is identifies where students' areas of improvements are and offers ideas and suggestions about how to approach this. It's also considered that is that the feedback is clearly related to future assessment tasks and is designed to help students prepare for them. Another one is that wherever possible, effective feedbacking is formative and not summative. It's also explicit, it's constructive, and treats student learning as a developmental rather than a deficit one. We also have it is timely enough so that it can be used by students in preparing for future assessments and in engaging with subject matter. It is provided in sufficient amount of detail, hindi kulang, hindi bitin. It is provided in context where students can ask questions about the feedback provided to each other and discuss their interpretation of it with each other. Also, it is pitched at an appropriate level. It is stated clearly and if written, is legible. And finally, it explains how and why students receive the mark they did in an assessment task. So, the concept of effective feedbacking is that it's as simple as giving students feedback in a way that it's in a communicative manner na they could ask questions why this happened, why they got scores like this and like that. There are characteristics, somehow 10 specific characteristics of constructive feedbacking. Number one is it's descriptive rather than evaluative. It is specific rather than general. It is focused on behavior rather than on the person. It takes into account the needs of both the receiver and the giver of feedback. It is directed toward behavior, which the receiver can do something about. It is solicited rather than imposed. It is well timed. It involves sharing of information rather than giving advice. It involves the amount of information the receiver can use rather than the amount we would like to receive or to give. And it concerns what is said and done or how, not why. Yan. So there are forms of feedback, oral and written, evaluative and descriptive, informal and formal feedback, and peer and self-feedbacking. So these are the four different types of feedback, constructive feedbacking. The next one is what does it mean by self-assessment? So technically, self-assessment is we are letting the students assess their own learning. So student self-assessment involves students describing and evaluating the processes and products of their own learning. No? Students evaluate the work they have produced and reflect on the processes, actions, and activities that contribute to the production of the work. And finally, students' self-assessment can support students to regulate their own learning by requiring them to monitor how they are working, and encouraging them to modify their approach if something is not working as well as it could. So, the concept of self-assessment is as simple as letting your students know, monitor, and reassess the learnings they have just uh, acquired after learning experiences or after a certain learning experience. Another one is peer assessment. So the concept naman ng peer assessment is that you are letting your classmates assess your own learning. Peer assessment or group assessment are somehow go hand in hand. Ano? Peer assessment is the assessment of the students' work by other students of equal status. Peer assessment is a powerful metacognitive tool. It engages students in the learning process and develops their capability or capacity to reflect on and critically evaluate their own learning and skill development. Peer and group assessment are also often undertaken together. Ayan, yung sinasabi ko kanina, they go hand in hand. And typically, the members of a group assess the performance of their peers in terms of their contribution to the group's work. There are benefits of self-assessment and peer assessment. Number one is it increases student engagement and empowers students. Pangalawa, it improves learning outcomes. Pangatlo, reduce the gap between the highest and the lowest achievers. It supports more equitable outcomes for all students. And number five, it improves motivation and perseverance. At the same time, it encourages students to seek and know where to find help. It develops students' self-regulation skills and metacognition. Another one is it gives students a strong sense of self-efficacy for developing their own effective study habits. It also helps enrich students' reasoning and improve their communication skills. It also helps them understand and apply quality criteria to their work. And finally, it creates a work or create a more egalitarian and supportive classroom environment. The next thing that we're going to talk about is how to assess or how to set up successful self-assessment. Number one there is you have to explain the benefit of self-assessment. Okay. Afterwards, you have to explicitly teach students how to self-assess and provide ongoing support. After that, you allow students to contribute to creating standards or criteria. Ibig sabihin, while you are doing the rubrics, you are sharing it to the class and you are giving them power to whether agree or disagree on the level of achievements to be put in the rubrics itself. Create a positive, trusting classroom culture. Use self-assessment as a formative, not as a summative assessment tool. Consider using a rubric and follow-up assessments with student-teacher learning conversations. There are also pitfalls, ano, pero that we are to consider or we are to be wary about doing self-assessment. Number one is that a lack of trust and social pressure could be a factor. Over and underestimating one's ability is another one. Insufficient knowledge to accurately self-assess. Students may not be old enough, and students' willingness to self-assess is another consideration. So these are all factors to consider when you are doing self-assessment or you are letting your students assess their own learning. It's very critical, hence these are called pitfalls. So we have a lack of trust and social pressure, over and underestimating one's ability, insufficient knowledge to accurately self-assess. Students may not be old enough, and students' willingness to self-assess. So finally, these are assessment tools for peer and self-assessment. Number one, you have rubrics, you have scripts, you have journals, you have portfolios, traffic lights. Traffic lights are considered as uh, assessment tool for peer and self-assessment kasi if you're to look the traffic lights, ano, you have three colors there, green, red, and orange. Orange ba yun? Or yellow? So green means they have good level of knowledge already, while red is they have a little knowledge lang. Okay? Sa traffic light, all right, ito yon. Yellow or red, ayan. Yellow is they have partial level of learning. Green is they have good level of learning, and red is they have little lang. That's why it's called traffic light or traffic lights as used for self and peer assessment. Exit cards, exit cards are small pieces of cards or like a post-it card given to each students at the end of the lesson on which they are writing their comment to self-assess what they have learned in the lesson. So they will be posting it on the board. Paired marking also, you when we say paired marking, pairs of students interchange and assess work. So ibig sabihin, magpapalitan yung isang pares ng estudyante, yung isa mag-check yung sa gawa ng isang klase niyan, then the other one checks the output of the other pair. Dedicated improvement and reflection time is also another factor. So ano ba itong dirt na ito? Yung dirt na ito or dedicated improvement and reflection time is that this is a time in the lesson in which the only goal the only goal is for the students to read and make use of feedback they have received. So, ibig sabihin, babasahin lang nila yon tapos intindihin nila. Where every students will need to have plenty of documented feedbacks, either from themselves, from the teachers, or from their classmates, so that they can respond to. So, we might like to sometimes offer feedback on a student's response to feedback and use other time as well in doing peer and self-assessment in our class. So I think that's all for this session. This, as I have said, this is the last topic that we will be discussing in Assessment in Learning 1. This is about feedbacking and communicating assessment results. So in addition to that, the concept of feedbacking is that I think I've told you na already about the the current trends in sharing the learnings of the students to the stakeholders, particularly the parents. It's the student led uh, conference, something like that. So student led conference where the students are explaining to the parents why they got a score of this on their every subjects while the teachers are just watching. So it's a student led kasi it's not that on a regular basis na parents teacher meeting na the teachers and the parents are the ones only having the meetings. In a student teacher or a student led conference, the students themselves are there together with their parents and the teachers. Okay? So I think that's all for this morning session. If you have questions later on, you may send it na lang sa ating GC para napag-usapan natin sa ating face-to-face meetings. Thank you so much, everyone.